So I honestly probably shouldn't be making this video because you guys mostly know me for playing Survivor, and whenever I do play Killer, I'm a complete straight up forehead. I hate to flex on you, but I've kind of wasted more than half of a year on this game though. So I kind of wanted to make a list from my experience on whether or not it's super easy or super challenging to escape a certain killer. Obviously I have the basic knowledge of every killer, and there's some certain killers where even if you have no skill, you're gonna get a lot of easy kills compared to some killers where you have a shit ton of skill and you're still gonna have a hard chance getting that 4K. This video is obviously just based on my opinion. I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but there are a lot of people that take this to heart and freak the fuck out in the comments. If you disagree with anything though, I completely respect that. Just understand that these are my thoughts, and you're still entitled to believe whatever you want before and after the video. Alright, fuck, I'm talking more than I wanted to. I want to keep this video somewhat short. So the list I have on the screen obviously goes from best to worst, from S to F. This list though is honestly super challenging to make, and I'm still a bit confused on where I want to put Myers, Hag, and a few other killers. Without further ado though, we're gonna start at S, which has only Nurse. Actually, fuck, we're gonna start at A. There's no reason to talk about Nurse. In column A, we have Spirit and Billy, and this is probably a really unpopular opinion, but I really do believe that Spirit is around Billy's level. In Dead by Daylight, there's a lot of killers that are pretty easy to pick up, but there's also some others that take you a long time to fully learn, and just it takes a lot of practice to actually get really good with them and get 4Ks. Honestly, Nurse can be one of those killers that takes a while to learn, but once you got her down, it's pretty easy. But Spirit is definitely one of the most challenging killers to learn. Going against a Spirit that has no idea what they're doing is like taking candy from a kindergartner on Halloween. But once they get that first hit on you, they open up their ears and they learn how to track, you're like 99% of the chance not gonna get away. I have gone against countless Spirits, and without the counter of Iron Will, you're fucked. Moving on to Billy though, this one should be pretty basic. Billy is overall one of your fun and relaxing killers to play. You chainsaw around the map, you have full gen control, and you can insta-down people the second you back rev them. He is counterable with pallets and windows, and if you're going against a good survivor, it is hard to get that chainsaw considering they're gonna vault a window before they give you the chance, so you have to smack them instead. But with Enduring and other aggressive perks, it's usually super easy to mow down survivors, unless they do the gen super quick, which is kind of the only counter for every killer that's at the high tier. Billy's also got a pretty big hitbox on his chainsaw, which can make it feel super unfair for a survivor's perspective, but at the end of the day, he's probably my favorite killer. Alright, moving to column B. This is when things are going to get a bit challenging and a lot of people are going to disagree. Starting with Huntress, I 100% believe that she deserves a spot here, if not A. I personally do suck with her though, and I cannot figure out the hitboxes with the hatchets, and overall my aim is just beyond painful. Huntress though is that killer that everyone wants to get good at these days, and people are trying to like get the best clips on Twitter. It's fucking insane. The hits people get with her, and the amount of control you have if you don't miss a single hatchet is pretty ridiculous. Don't take it as I'm calling her overpowered though, she is definitely very counterable, and you feel very weak with her at certain situations. Playing against super unpredictable survivors is like your worst nightmare. When you're like in a cornfield and a survivor just runs in a straight line when you think they're gonna sway left or right, or if they don't throw the pallet down, or if they do extra early and then you don't have time to wind up your hatchet. Also, there's a lot of maps that have super high loops, and she's a very slow killer to begin with, so it makes it not that fun. You're not gonna always have a good game playing as her, but if you master her, you're gonna get some pretty good games. Okay, so Hag is when things get tricky. I know there's gonna be people telling me to put Hag in A tier, and I know there's gonna be people telling me to put Hag in F tier. Hag is just one of those killers that is absolutely counterable. I have both been demolished and completely demolished Hags multiple times. Going against a good Hag usually results with you stepping in their traps 24/7, not knowing where their traps even exist, smart teleporting times, tricks with their traps, whether or not they're gonna take it or not when you're at a loop, so she can mind game you there, trapping the hook survivor, trapping the basement. The downside with her though is the fact that people can bring flashlights and have urban evasion. If you go against a team of immersive Claudettes, you're probably gonna lose. If you go against a team of toxic Nias with flashlights, you're probably gonna lose. But in a normal game where you can use your power to the best of its ability, you're probably gonna do pretty well. Again, Hag is one of those killers that I think no one's really gonna agree with, but she's definitely not low tier. But she's also definitely not Nurse level. Also, the reason why you guys probably think Hag's really bad is because the only Hags you get are doing their dailies. no one knows how to play her properly. Alright, time to talk about Big Boy Myers. I honestly can't decide whether or not he should be in B or C tier. I personally think he's better than all the killers I put in C tier though, considering he can have a one-shot, his heartbeat is pretty damn big when he's got that tier 3, he's got the element of surprise working towards him. Myers is one of those killers where survivors can pull pretty much anything off on him. Nothing specific really works in his favor to stop loops, stop an infinite, but once he gets that tier 3 off someone, the game can get pretty interesting. Obviously, the first idea a survivor has is to just hide, but getting that tier 3 means he got it off someone, so once he downs them and hooks them, he can just use barbecue or whatever other perks he's got working for him. Being able to M1 someone and instantly down them for a short period of time, and then once you lose it, you can just gain it back really quickly, is a pretty powerful ability. You can still get ran around decently well, but with tier 3 and an instant down and also faster vaulting, it makes it quite a lot easier. Again, I'm not quite too sure with him still. All the killers that I have listed lower than him have their powers to help them get the additional smack on the survivor. Some of them have a few powers that can instantly kill them or just help them kill them in different ways. Myers just feels like he executes things a lot faster to me. Moving to column C though, we're gonna start things off with the Plague. The Plague in my eyes isn't actually that powerful to be honest, and a lot of people know how to play against her and counter her power. Nowadays, groups that survive with friends won't even cleanse, therefore her not being able to even use her corrupt intervention. Or if someone does cleanse and she gets to use her corrupt intervention, a lot of the survivors half the time will just run to obstacles or jungle gyms and hide from her, therefore making it very hard to hit them with her vomit. It is definitely still possible, and half the time she does feel very overpowered, but that's only one down, and then she loses her power, and it's just a rinse and repeat from that point. A lot of time is definitely wasted while playing her unless survivors invest all their time into cleansing, therefore fucking themselves over for the most part. It does sound kind of stupid for survivors not to cleanse and therefore being one-shots the whole game, but it pretty much prevents the Plague from even getting to use her ability. The one thing she excels at though, which also Leatherface excels at, is the fact that she can hit multiple people with one attack. Again, that's only if survivors cleanse though. Next, we got the Clown. I'm actually going to keep this one pretty basic. The way Clown's power works is whenever he throws bottles, it pretty much forms a gas cloud, and whenever survivors run inside of it, they get slowed down. Their vision's also slightly blurred, but it doesn't really affect you for the most part other than giving you a fucking headache. The only thing Clown's really good at is stopping infinite, stopping pallet loops, but a survivor can just go through all the pallets and by then the gens will be completely done. Against a team that isn't completely on top of their shit, he'll do a pretty good job at for the most part, but if it's a team of survive with friends, you're probably gonna get destroyed. If you hate getting looped though, just throw a bottle at the loop and just eat the pallet, dude. His stomach can't possibly get any bigger. What? Next, we got Trapper, and holy fuck do I hate going against him. I may have shown signs in the past of me thinking that Trapper's like super overpowered, but I am personally just a trap magnet. The way Trapper games usually play out is the second you spawn, you go and set your traps, and usually when you're done setting them all, there's like only 2 gens left. There's definitely a difference between a good and a bad Trapper, but there's also a lot of luck involved. Survivors can either just avoid your traps without even realizing, or you've trapped too obvious and they just find other loops and windows to vault. He's definitely not a terrible killer though, because you can block off a lot of powerful parts of the map. I'm talking about the Ironwork Infinite, Coal Tower Infinite, Haddonfield Balconies, but if you don't get your traps to work, you're pretty much just an M1 killer. You can definitely be a smart player and try to lure them into your traps, but half the time the game's already over. Next, we got the Pig, and she might be better, she might be worse. I don't even know about this one. Bro, I keep saying I'm not sure about this on every single killer. Alright, I gotta stop saying I'm not sure on things. The Pig though has 2 abilities. One of them lets you trap the survivors and the other one lets you dash for a short period of time. The dash also includes you being able to stealth around the map without a heartbeat, and once you find someone, you're able to surprise them with an attack. This is honestly a decent method, but is sometimes a waste of time and your visibility isn't quite the best. You can also use this at loops to try to mind game the survivors by dashing one way and then to the other, catching up to them before they can drop the pallet down. But if the survivor is somewhat decent, they'll just run to the next loop and avoid that. Traps are definitely a great way to buy time, but 99% of the time, you're probably not going to get a kill with them, considering the survivors are going to get them off before the time expires. You can play super scummy and tunnel down that one survivor, but everyone else is just going to work on gens, and you're not going to have any other helmets to work in your favor. The Pig used to be a lot better when you could do endgame piggy and actually use your traps once all the gens were done. But nowadays, you got to make it all work before the game is over, or you're practically just an M1 killer as well. I personally don't think the Pig is a terrible killer, and if you have a trap on your head and you can't get it off because you have terrible RNG, then the game is gonna feel pretty bad. But if you manage to run her around long enough and not let her use her power against you until all the gens are done, it's gonna be a pretty simple game. Unless she's got no ed. Alright, moving to column D, we're starting things off with the Doctor. I never play Doctor, but from my experience while going against him, it's not too hard to counter him. There are though some very good doctors out there that time their shocks perfectly and can end a loop almost every single time. But running around in treatment mode, shocking people, getting them to tier 3, really doesn't do that much in the long run. Whenever he does land a shock on you though, you're unable to do any action, so like working on a gen, vaulting a window, throwing down a pallet. You'd think, oh, just shock the survivor forehead and then fucking smack him. It is definitely a way to end the chase, but getting the timing down and going against a survivor that knows what they're doing as well makes it pretty frustrating. There is something called the 3-gen dock, and this is almost impossible to survive if it's only you and one other survivor. It's also probably one of the most annoying things to go against in the game, but you gotta get pretty lucky with the situation and what gens the survivors worked on. And overall, your power just doesn't really end chases that fast. Alright, let's talk about the Bing Bong Boy. There's really not that much to say about Wraith. He's just an M1 killer that can run around the map invisible without a heartbeat. Whenever he uncloaks, he slows down for a little and then speeds up for a little after he's completely uncloaked. And that can sometimes help with you in loops. He's definitely good at sneaking up on people and getting that first smack on them and then having to only smack them one more time to getting them on the ground. But he's got nothing to help him with infinites and pallet loops. You could loop this man for days if you're good enough until everything is used on the map, and by then all the gens would be done. Him not being the most powerful killer though doesn't make him super boring. I do personally love playing him. I know for a fact there's also a lot of Wraith mains out there that are pretty damn good. If you can sneak up to people and position yourself properly and get that element of surprise, you may be able to turn it into a win. But if the survivors are doing gens in really open places and see you coming from a mile away, they're gonna prepare before you get there. We got Bubba Aka Leatherface and this poor killer. I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. Everyone hates him because the second you go down, you're probably gonna get put in the basement and get face camped with a fat chainsaw. But why did you go down to him in the first place? This boy has nothing to help him with loops. For the majority of the time, they usually rev their chainsaw in hopes that you're gonna throw it down, therefore you getting another loop. Okay, to be fair, if you're an aggressive Leatherface, you're probably gonna get quite a couple of kills, but with the amount of skill you have on him, you could play someone a lot more powerful and confirm a 4K every game. I don't want to bully the Bubba mains, because I know people like to play him for the memes, and also you can work for masks, but I strongly believe he deserves to be in D tier. The only argument I could really see being put against me is the fact that he will always get some kills, but that's because a lot of them just camp. Your chainsaw literally lets you hit more than one person, therefore you can secure the person on the hook. Next, we got Legion. Honestly, when Legion's rework came out, everyone was saying that it was a nerf, and then everyone turned to it saying it was a buff, including me. But I'm starting to believe it's kind of a nerf again. Maybe I haven't gone against too many good Legions recently, which is nice. But Legion is pretty much an M1 killer as well. His frenzy now makes him run super slow. Whenever he vaults a pallet, it's also super slow. Outrunning him if you're far enough away is almost a guarantee now. And as long as your team isn't completely altruistic, his power isn't going to really do that much. There's definitely a lot of plays that can be done with him, and if you're not careful, he can definitely demolish your team pretty fast. But that's really only if your whole team's cuddling in a corner and you're letting the Legion lick your ass. He has base movement speed, so he's kind of a threat, and he can definitely mind game you on loops and catch up to you pretty quick. But his power is nothing how it used to be. Thank God. So last but not least, we got Freddie in the F column. This is honestly a mistake though. Freddie is probably the most powerful killer in the game. All he has to do in order to smack the survivor is put them to sleep. You know how many times he has to smack the survivor? Only 2 times! If you lose the survivor, don't worry. You'll see them for like the next 5 seconds until they get a skill check. Alright man, you had your moment in the spotlight. I cannot make you sound good. Freddy's got his good moments, especially late game Freddy, where if you put everyone to sleep, they have no way of waking themselves up until you injure someone so they can self-care and get a skill check. But by then, someone's gonna get a door open. There's no way you can put everyone to sleep, especially if they all have adrenaline. People do still manage to 4K with him, but that's when you're playing super aggressive and you don't have a super sweaty team going against you. Freddy is just that kid in school everyone bullied. Either ways, that was my tier list. I feel like I kind of rushed the end, but I've been talking all day and my voice is almost leaving me. I want to remind you guys again that I'm not a killer main, and these are my opinions. I'm not trying to force you to believe anything. I am curious to see what you guys think in the comments, because I've been asking people around as well on what they think the tier list should be, but this is definitely one of those things that not everyone can agree on. I hope you guys did enjoy the video though, and if you've watched all the way to the end of all my talking, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, as usual, I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, guys.
We gon' be okay. We gon' be alright. We gon' be okay. We gon' be alright. We gon' be okay. We gon' be alright. We gon'